I really feel like something to eat now, some shrimp.
Want to stop?
Yeah. There's a Jack in the Box over there. Oh, just take a second.
On February 21st, 1951, Robert O. Peterson founded Jack in the Box, a fast food chain specializing in burgers, fries, and chicken in San Diego, California. But it wasn't until 1994 when the fast food chain would introduce their iconic mascot, Jack. Jack was reintroduced specifically to signal the new direction that the company was taking to rebrand after a 1993 E. coli disaster where 4 children died and 178 others were left with permanent injury. This disaster threatened the chain's very existence, and the new mascot was an attempt to rebrand. It was extremely successful, maybe one of the most successful marketing campaigns in history. It turned a tainted brand into one of the most recognizable in the United States. But let me tell you about a mystery that this brand has had me investigating for the past 3 years. This is the story of the Jack in the Box mystery, a story that involves top-level executives, social media analyses, and marketing theory. This investigation is one of the craziest journeys I've ever been through. The amount of clues uncovered, unexpected turns, and narrative shifts I encountered is astonishing, and I'm excited to share it with you. I know this isn't the kind of usual content I make, but I don't really care because I just hope that you enjoy it. This is the story of the Stanford Jack in the Box mystery.
Welcome, sir, to Jack in the Box.
Daddy, why does the deli man hate you?
Wow, there is such a strong family resemblance.
Yeah.
At least once a year, I like to bring in some of my Kevin's famous chili.
So a few years ago, I started watching clips of The Office, and one of the main characters, Kevin, is played by an actor named Brian Baumgartner. And before he was in The Office, he was actually in a Jack in the Box commercial. And when I saw this commercial, I noticed something super interesting that piqued my interest immediately. I noticed that Jack's son, Jack Jr., was wearing a red hat with a white S on it. And immediately, I wondered what that could have possibly stood for. Like, why S? There's no S in Jack in the Box. There's no S in the name Jack Jr. And why not J for Jack? It started off as kind of an afterthought in my head, but the more I thought about it, the more there seemed to be no plausible explanation for why he was wearing a hat, the letter S on it. So I went to check to see if this was a one-off thing, or like an outfit that he only had on once. But what I found was shocking. This hat is worn in a ton of commercials with Jack Jr. For example, in this one where they're sitting together on a park bench, in this one where he's in a spelling bee, and in this family photo commercial. And maybe I'm biased, but I began to wonder if it was actually a Stanford hat, the one that was made famous by Tiger Woods. I mean, they look exactly the same. It's as if the person in charge of costumes literally went to the bookstore from Stanford and bought the hat specifically for the outfit. But there's just one problem. Jack in the Box has no correlation to Stanford University, the commercial had no mentions of Stanford, and there's really nothing that could reasonably explain why that hat could be related to Stanford. Yet, the hats are identical. This was literally a Stanford hat, right? What was the connection? I had to find out. My first thought was to do a quick Google to learn more about the Jack in the Box lore. If there was something relating the Jack in the Box franchise to Stanford, that would be an immediate answer and the mystery would be solved. I stumbled across a Jack in the Box wiki and scrolled around. I was floored by what I uncovered. This site is one of the most detailed fan websites I have ever come across. According to the site, it was founded in 2010, and as of me writing this, it has 266 articles, 1,464 files, and 5,449 edits for a Jack in the Box wiki. Let's take a look at Jackbox's page for a second. This article has more information than some actual real important people's Wikipedia pages. I started to realize just how much people cared about this character, and it made me hopeful. If this many people have enough time to document the entire living history of the Jack in the Box world, they must have known why his son wears a Stanford hat, right? Wrong. A quick search on the wiki showed no results for the word Stanford.
I hit another roadblock. I then decided to go to the page for Jack Jr. This article, like his father's, is equally impressive. It details Jack Jr.'s entire history from his birthday to today. But as expected, there is no mention of Stanford or the letter S. Knowing what I knew about the history and the world that has been built with these characters, it was time to start theorizing. At this point in time, I started to tell some of my friends about the investigation, and we began to start actually making up theories about what the S could have possibly resembled. So one theory went like this. Note that this is an extremely absurd theory and is probably not going to be the answer. We just wanted to make something so that we had a baseline to work with and we could work up from there. So here's the theory. Jack Jr. is not actually Jack's son. If you look up Jack Jr.'s parents, it's actually listed as Jack and Cricket Box. Well, who is Cricket Box? Cricket Box is a normal human. Jack, on the other hand, is obviously of a different species, and so is Jack Jr., so it seems super interesting that his son does not have any of the qualities, or at least none of the facial qualities of a normal human. I mean, looking at a normal Punnett square, there should be some traits that are passed down from the face, from the mother. But Jack Jr. looks exactly like his father. We know that shared traits are possible in this world because Nana Box exists, who is Jack's paternal grandmother. She looks like a normal human, but has a long nose. You would expect Jack Jr. looks somewhat similar as well, following a normal Punnett square. So the theory goes like this. Cricket Box didn't actually give birth to Jack Jr. Instead, Jack Jr. is the product of a Stanford University breeding experiment. A top secret one that only Jack knows about, but can't tell anyone. So he gives his son a Stanford hat as a symbol for the campus that birthed him. This would explain the Stanford hat, the reason why nobody talks about it, and the existence of Jack Jr. in the first place. This would also explain why it seems like Jack Jr. never ages. This commercial where he's on the park bench is from 2002, and this commercial with the family reunion is from 2012. That's a 10-year difference with no aging whatsoever. By the Jack in the Box universe standards, we know that many people like Jack Box age. Like, look at his grandfather. In the case of Jack Jr., he does not seem to age at all, indicating there is something abnormal going on here. It is a very simple and satisfying theory that I thought would be able to clearly explain all of the questions I had about the hat. But it kept bugging me, and it wasn't just me. A little context about this investigation is that it's originally spearheaded by my school newspaper, the Stanford Daily, which had a ton of journalists that were dedicated to investigating random mysteries for a program for the paper, and this was one of them. But after investigating for a few months, they too could not find any answers and just kept hitting roadblocks. It seemed that this mystery would be left unsolved. I was on to my last clues, and frankly, it looked like it wasn't really going anywhere. On a last-ditch attempt, I went to the internet's favorite place, Twitter, to see if I could find any more leads, or possibly the answer to the question. And what I found shocked me instead. I began by typing Jack in the Box Jr. commercial, and found 3 tweets. 2 were both by a mysterious user with the handle Mr. Phone. After scrolling through Mr. Phone's profile on Twitter, I couldn't help but notice this person's infatuation with the Jack in the Box brand. Their profile banner was an image of Jack and Jack Jr. at a Lakers game. They make doodles of Jack very frequently. I accidentally stumbled upon an extremely dark and twisted path. I began to see Jack in the Box fan edits, Jack in the Box thirst traps, Jack in the Box memes, and even Jack in the Box arguments. In one tweet, one user with a Jack in the Box profile photo says, "You know, I probably know Jack better than his wife at this point. Now I've memorized every fact about him," to the last Insta post. Mr. Phone responded to this post with a really combative tone, taking the tweet almost as a challenge. Mr. Phone responded, "Okay, well, did he open his mouth and eat in a commercial? Do you know his first design? Was there a Jack in the Box Funko commercial? What's Junior Jack's name, or does he have a channel? And did he kill people by overcooked patties 155 degrees? These are questions, answer them." Sadly, the user did not answer the questions, but it made me realize that I wasn't crazy for wondering about what the S stood for on Jack Jr.'s hat, because these people cared so much more about such an insignificant thing in contrast.
And I'm not one to knock someone for their interest, but I just found it super crazy, the sheer amount of people and edits and images that I stumbled across while trying to solve this mystery. It made me think about the brand for Jack in the Box. This was super interesting, and it was a shift of the brand image that I kind of thought it was like for the past 10 years. But all in all, none of them gave me any leads to the main question that I wanted to answer, which was the mystery about the hat. Or did they? One of the tweets that I also found alongside Mr. Phone's tweets was one by a user with the name The 3D Print General. The tweet reads, "Most people don't know this, but my first claim to fame was being Jack Jr. in a Jack in the Box commercial. Hashtag TBT." And attaches a photo of what appears to be a behind-the-scenes photo of a Jack in the Box commercial with Jack and Jack Jr. in the photo. In this photo, Jack Jr. isn't wearing the red S hat, so there weren't any new leads there. However, the person claimed to be an actor for Jack Jr., so he may have acted in other commercials that did have the red S hat. And if he did, I wanted to ask him directly if he knew what it was. So I sent him a message and waited a few days. He responded and was super down to talk to me.
If you could introduce yourself and kind of talk more about like what your role in all of this is.
Yeah, my commercial was only on the Spanish channels. So it was filmed in Ensenada Street. I can't remember. It's like it looks like Mexico, but it's in LA. And but anyway, yeah, that was I got into acting when I was like 10, 11 years old, or when my mom would drive me to a bunch of auditions. This was the only commercial I got, and there were two of us. So it was, I actually think I might have got cast because I was a similar size as the other boy. Like I think the other boy did more Jack in the Box commercials, and this was my only one. The commercial was, there was like some sort of fortune teller, and like I said, it was supposed to look like the streets of Mexico, and I take Jack's hand and run towards the fortune teller to get our fortune taken. Yeah, I really didn't have to do much. The thing that was really weird about it, that was difficult, was the helmet. I'm sure it's way different now, but the helmet was crazy intricate. There was goggles on the inside, and there was you saw out the bottom of the nose. The bottom of the nose was the lens that you were seeing out of, and it had no depth perception, so you're just seeing out of the bottom of the nose. I'm sure it's way better now because it was camera technology from the year 2000.
Right.
And I remember one take, I grabbed Jack's hand and I'm like pointing and running towards an area, and you can't, like, literally it was tunnel vision, like you can only see right in front of you. And I tripped over a bench, and like the whole crew like ran over freaking out because the helmet was probably a $1 million helmet or whatever. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember specifically at the they have these it was a super, super hot day, and they had all these food trucks and everything for everybody, and there was a bunch of extras in the commercial, and they all had to sit in the heat, and they had, for us, just the main actors, they had us with canopies and fans and misters all over us, and it was just like I said, you feel like royalty while it's all going on. As a
as a kid, you must have been like floored. Like you must have been like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I bought my first car when I was 16. That was all from that.
from one commercial.
Yeah, I think I made like $8,000 over the.
Wow, that's insane. Oh my gosh.
And I didn't speak, and you didn't see my face. It was in on the Spanish channels only. I remember. But I don't think it was anything unique. Like I know there was a lot of the ones where he like was playing baseball and they introduced a bunch of his other family members. Unfortunately, I wasn't in any of those cool ones, but
As soon as he said he was only in one Jack in the Box commercial that didn't include the red S hat, I knew I had hit another roadblock. However, this interview wasn't unhelpful at all. In fact, it was extremely helpful. Later in the interview, Sean mentioned something that would actually be one of the biggest breakthroughs in the case. But before we got into that, I wanted to introduce the theory to him.
And so you attached a photo. So you attached this photo of you on the set. And so this was interesting because the outfit here is a tiny propeller. It's not what Jack Jr. normally wears, which is the outfit with like the red hat. I don't know if you're like aware of this, but he usually wears like this red
Oh
hat
no.
on it.
I'm sure I knew that at some point, but
But one mystery that we were attempting to solve is that we're curious what that S stood for in the hat because S has like no correlation to like Jack. Like why the letter S, you know? We were kind of curious what that stood for. And then so we were trying to ask around. I saw your tweet about it and I thought, why not ask the person that was in the suit itself? I don't know. Do you know what this S stands for? Like, do you have any clues or hints or ideas?
no, I do not. And I having trouble even remembering that it was that hat.
I'll give you like a theory that we kind of came up with, and you
What's
can
that?
tell me your thoughts on this. Tiger Woods, when he played at Stanford, he used to wear this hat that
Oh, that
looks
looks exactly the same.
exactly the same, right? And we were curious, like, okay, is this like the same hat? And so the theory, and you can tell me if you think this is true or not. So the theory goes like this. So what are your theories? Like what do you think the S? Because there's no S at all like relating to this character, right? So what do you think the S is?
I really like your theory, but maybe he's just a Tiger Woods fan. Because I'm assuming when those commercials were made, like I said, my commercial was like the year 2000. And that was like exactly when Tiger Woods was, I think
Like he was
jumping onto
popping
the
off,
scene. Yeah,
right?
yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, maybe just a Tiger Woods fan, but I like your
Maybe a
theory
big
more.
Tiger.
So
Right. Yeah, they can all be. We'll find some Tiger Woods Jack in the Box. Let's see if like they did like a promotion together or something.
Yeah.
So I looked around. There's no correlation with Jack in the Box and Tiger Woods at all, so we hit a dead end there. But there was a name that Sean kept repeating that I think was the key to solving this solve.
I texted you or I DM'd you the guy who played Jack.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're able to even find contact for that guy, but he was Jack for like hundreds of commercials. That one guy.
Oh, Jack Tate. Oh, this is the real Jack in the Box guy.
Yeah,
The guy
so
that you yeah.
It was actually, I remember this. It was my first commercial, and it was his 100th Jack in the Box commercial when I did that one. So yeah.
He's a veteran. I'll try to get in contact with him. He might this might be a lead in the case because we just keep hitting roadblocks.
I think Jack Tate was the only Jack in the Box at the time. I know since then there's been a bunch more. So he might have been the guy at the very beginning, right when they launched the character. He didn't do any of the voices. He was just the physical actor, but I believe he was from the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. But
okay, well, there's a lead.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
This was a new lead, Jack Tate, the actor that physically portrayed the character Jack Box for over 20 years. If I wanted to find an answer to this mystery, I had to go to him.
Maybe we can just start off and just talk about like, what's your name and how do you like play into this entire project?
Hi, my name is Jack Tate. I played the character Jack in the Box for 23 plus years. I was not the original on TV even. It was invented by Rick Sittig, and Rick Sittig hired somebody else. And I saw the commercials on television, and I said, that guy is very uncomfortable. That commercial is about to be recast. I'd spent a lot of time doing suit performer stuff. I did a TV series called Jim Henson's Dinosaurs, in which I wore one 55-pound suit and one 85-pound suit, so that when I saw a guy on TV wearing, a 14-pound fiberglass head and a cotton suit, I thought, I could do that. That looks like a pension to me. And luckily, now that I'm nearly 70 years old, I have a pension, and it's because of that. And I called my agent, and I said, "Well, this commercial that just came on TV, and it's about to be recast, and I want to be on that list." And my agent very calmly said, "Get over yourself." So I paid no attention, and 11 days later, a very sheepish agent called me up and said, "You're on the list." And so I went to the first commercial, and it was they had the practice head and a big aperture, and I have a large head, and not that large, and I did the audition, and I'm pretty sure I killed.
This guy was the real deal. This is literally Jackbox. So I wanted to ask him more about Jack Jr. to see if he remembered much, because this was like 20 plus years ago. This is what he had to say. Previously for this project, I interviewed one of the actors that played Jack Jr., like Jackbox's son in the commercials.
Which one?
Yeah, this was, so he told me about you. He said that he acted in one that was in a Spanish-speaking commercial about a fortune teller. So do you remember that commercial at all? Like, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I used to always tell the mothers, because they would always say to me, like, "How can we make sure that he gets the next Jack Jr. commercial?" And I said, "Start him smoking." And don't feed him meat or any milk or anything like that, so he won't grow. And I did it with a straight
There
face.
we go.
I think I did that to his mother too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, we're always making fun.
This is the part where, like, I've introduced this to the actor that played Jack Jr., but this is like about you can right. So this is a Wikipedia wiki of Jack in the Box.
Right.
And so in many of the commercials, right, Jack Jr. always has this S hat, this red and white S hat.
Okay.
And so we asked the actor, the main question that somebody asked was, what does that S stand for?
Oh,
right.
Look at that. That's funny.
They're exactly the same. They look exactly the same.
Tiger Woods had it too. That's hilarious.
Exactly. And so we're curious. This is a Stanford hat, red and white,
and a Stanford shirt too.
Right. Exactly. And so the mystery was, like, because Tiger Woods went to Stanford, and so around that time is when, like, this hat was getting kind of popular, and so we're kind of curious. This is around the same time that this hat, like, was in the same commercials, and so we were kind of curious, what does that S stand for? Because obviously S isn't in Jack in the Box. The son's name doesn't have an S in it at all. For a definitive answer for the S, like,
yes.
I guess, like, is that, do you think it is a Stanford hat, or would you think not?
No, I don't know. There was no. The honest answer is I have no freaking idea. It would be nice if I could get a quippy little answer, but I don't have one.
Unfortunately, he didn't know the answer, but it was okay. I had gotten a lot of cool stories, and I had a really great conversation with a lot of these people, so I'm not really that mad, but it would still be nice to know what the S stood for. I thought I might as well tell him the theory at this point and see what he had to say about it. Because when you first joined, there was, like, no family involved in it. Was just Jack, and he was CEO, right? And they start introducing the family, like, over time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And so, yeah. And so I guess, like, here's one of the theories that you can hear that, and we can see what you think of it. So the theory is that Jack Box and Cricket Box, we see both of them in the commercials. They're they're the parents of Jack Jr. And so the theory goes like this: since, like, Cricket Box looks like a normal human being, and Jack Box is obviously like a different species, we theorize that maybe Jack Jr. is the product of a Stanford University breeding experiment. So they made him in the lab.
That's
and
funny.
and so because we can see that, like, there's no like facial features from the mom, so we were curious, there had to be like some reason why, there had to be something that explained it,
Yeah,
and so that was
they had-
explanation.
So, while he didn't know the answer to the mystery, he did bring up a name that I saw pop up over and over again that did relate to something that I uncovered beforehand that related to Mr. Phone. You see, Mr. Phone unexpectedly gave the biggest lead of them all, and they didn't even know it. I saw their banner and was so intrigued about what the context of that photo was. It appeared to be in some sports event, so I looked it up. In 2011, Jack in the Box did a promotion at the Lakers game where they had Jack and Jack Jr. at the game. Unfortunately, in this promotion, Jack Jr. isn't wearing the S hat, rather a Lakers hat. I was so intrigued by this that I looked up more about it and found this CNBC article that popped up when I searched for the event. It was titled Stunt of the Week, Jack in the Box at the Lakers game, with an extremely flattering photo of Jack and Jack Jr. holding their hands up for the national anthem. Anyways, it reads like this. I love innovative, smart marketing. So when I saw that Jack from Jack in the Box showed up at the Lakers game with his son on Friday, I smiled. Keep in mind the fact that Jack in the Box is an official sponsor and provides free tacos if the team scores more than 100 points is key to pulling something like this off. To find out how this went down, I called Dick Siddig of Secret Weapon Marketing. Siddig is the founder of the firm that runs Jack in the Box advertising. He also happens to be the voice and guide in Jack's costume. Wait, the guy that runs Jack in the Box advertising also plays Jack in the Box? I had to find out more. Immediately, I googled Dick Siddig, who now goes by Rick, and sure enough, he used to run all of Jack in the Box advertising and was the voice of the guy in the suit. If I wanted to answer this mystery, this was the person I needed to get a hold of. Oh, wait. I think I can fix this. It's on my end. Let me fix this. All right, there we go. Can you?
All right.
There we go. Awesome.
Hey,
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing well. Thank
Where
you
are
so
you?
much. I'm in San Francisco Bay Area. So could you introduce yourself and kind of talk about your history with Jack in the Box and what you've been doing there?
All right. Well, I'm Rick Siddig, and I created the Jack campaign for Jack in the Box in response to Jack in the Box having an E. coli outbreak that killed 4 children and sickened hundreds of people in, I believe it was 93. And so that company was in a lot of trouble. They were spiraling towards bankruptcy. One of the things they did was to look for a new ad agency to help get them out of that mess. And so I was with an ad agency called Chiat Day. And Chiat Day has done a lot of great work over the years. They do the Apple advertising now. But they've done Nike and Porsche and the Energizer Bunny. And it's another campaign I created. And anyway, I created this Jack character in response to try to get them out of the mess that they were in. And so the idea is that the company was going to be under new management. The founder of the company, Jack Box, had come back to headquarters. He blew up the boardroom, which was a not so subtle way of saying Jack was under new management, and was taking control of his company again. So that was the strategy behind it, and it worked. The stock was at a low of $3 a share, and it steadily climbed over $99 a share. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. We did about I wrote and directed all of the spots, and I
Wow.
voiced the character of Jack. And I think I did that for about 20 years. And we did about 400 commercials.
Yeah. Now, before I wanted to ask him the question, I wanted to tell him the theory and see what he thought of it. I'll really quickly read you this theory that we had that
Okay.
about what the S hat stood
Oh,
for.
sure. Okay.
So this involves Cricket Box, and so Cricket Box Cricket Box looks like a human being. Jack in the Box obviously has like a big round head that doesn't resemble a human. So the theory
That's his
goes like
DNA.
this.
That's
Yeah,
his
that's
DNA.
right. Exactly. So the theory goes like this: Cricket Box did not give birth to Jack Jr. Instead, Jack Jr. is the product of a Stanford University breeding experiment, a top secret one that only Jack knows about but cannot tell anyone. So he gives his son a Stanford hat as a symbol for the campus that birthed him. This would explain the Stanford hat, the reason why nobody talks about it, and the existence of Jack Jr. in the first place. This would also explain why it seems like Jack Jr. never ages. And then by the Jack in the Box universe standards, many people like Jack age. His grandfather ages. There's a grandfather in the case of Jack Jr. doesn't seem to age. So there might be something abnormal going on there. And so that was one of the theories that we came up with. But it didn't seem plausible. There were a lot of holes in that theory. And so I was kind of curious, what are your thoughts on that theory?
It's not at all shocking that a group of Stanford students thought that the key to understanding the campaign has something to do with Stanford.
Yeah.
That we would call that a built-in bias.
Yeah. We talked about that.
So this was it. We were finally going to get the answer to the mystery. And at this moment, I really thought back to the 3 past years that, we've been working on this mystery and all the great people we've talked to. Maybe the journey isn't about the hat at all. It's about a story of a man that brought a company from the brink of disaster to one of the most globally recognizable in the world and one of the most prominent fast food restaurants in the United States. Yeah, the hat is a cool little side piece in this mystery that, we wanted to solve in the beginning, but it is really amazing to see how much one man has done for an entire company. But obviously, the mystery had to be solved, and I asked him what the S stood for.
Actually, so we just wanted, Jack has a pointy yellow hat, and we wanted his son, who was sort of perennially 10 years old or so, to have a hat as well, but a different kind of hat that made him immediately identifiable as that age kid. So we gave him a baseball cap and got to put something on it, and couldn't do anything that was trademarked. So I just gave him the letter S, which is my last name.
There we go. That's
the
answer.
That's the answer.
The answer to the mystery.
So there was the answer. And it might seem kind of disappointing at first, and you may be wondering why I made you watch such a long video for this final answer that ultimately is a bit dull. But I think it's actually a beautiful answer in retrospect. We can kind of think of the hat as a symbol instead. A symbol for a company that was on the brink of disaster and was brought back to life by one person. I'm not painting him out to be a hero or saying that the advertisements were groundbreaking or the best thing in the world, but it is really commendable to see how a company that was about to lose everything come back to life in such a strong way. While I still had him on the line, I wanted to ask Rick about a final proposition.
The Jack in the Box commercials have been extremely successful. It's I think if you ask any American family, they know about Jack in the Box and they can recognize that character. And so I don't know how to what extent you still work with Jack in the Box, but we had an idea that Jack Jr. is now older and as a teenager now, and have him have a TikTok account and like, you know, resonate with the younger audience.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, the answer to the first question is I no longer have anything to do with Jack in the Box.
No. Okay, well, I don't
So
think
that ended. That's okay. That ended in 2015.
Okay.
So I had a 20-year run, and so that's all fine. And since then, I think they've tried to take the character. If you look, there's a lot less story in the commercial and a lot more food. And then they also thought, like, we need to make Jack younger, and so they they put him in like skinny jeans.
Yep.
And I just that is sort of the obvious move.
Right.
Hey, you know, your target is young, so why don't we act like we're young? But from the very beginning, I thought,
right,
nobody who's 23 looks at you know, Jack in the Box and thinks like, hey, they're just like me.
Right.
No.
Right.
The interest is that we're not going to pander to you.
Right.
We're going to be our own thing, and maybe you'll find this interesting. And so Jack is a 40-something guy with a family, and there's nothing about that that's pandering to our target. The only thing we're trying to do is keep it entertaining and engaged. So I think you blow it when you try to you know, mirror your target. Everyone's too smart now. That might have worked in 1962. Like, hey, that's that company's like me. Nobody believes that anymore, and it's still like the most common tactic used in advertising.
Even though Rick doesn't work for Jack in the Box anymore, I couldn't help but notice the admiration that a ton of people had for Rick. They credit him for essentially saving the company and being one of the most creative and engaging people to have ever worked in advertising.
Sitting saved the company. Well, sitting with a little help from me.
Yeah, exactly.
I only did the first 600.
And so I guess like from that first audition, did you know that it would become as big as it is today?
I saw it lasting quite a bit. When I got there after the 5-week interval, thinking that I had completely lost it, I got there the first day and I talked to them about it, and they said, yeah, I think we could do this for 5 years. Yeah. That was 1994.
Wow. So what is that? That's like 20 plus that had been going
29.
on for. Wow, 29.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so, you know, obviously he like saved the company, and you know, you were there on the inside when this was happening. Can you like talk about like, you know, what was that kind of like, and could you see it, like the reputation like changing immediately?
Oh yeah, no, it was during a time commercials used to be really good, and by the time Jack in the Box hit the air, it was sort of winding down, and the only funny spots, it's like people would see a spot coming on TV, the ads coming on, which is everything was ad based then. There was no streaming services and this and that. So everybody, you know, that was their time to take a pee break, or, you know, get a sandwich or do whatever. But if people knew it was a Jack in the Box commercial or a Geico commercial, those two people would stick and watch. They would watch it a second time. They would watch it a 5th and a 10th time. Because it made them laugh. And we were kind of non-commercials. we would fool people into thinking that they were watching some other thing, and then it would be revealed that it would be a Jack in the Box commercial. Those guys pulled rabbits out of hats. Siddig hired a team of writers and stuff. I mean, he was the final arbiter of everything. When by the time this kid was Jack Jr., seems like about the time we had taken their stock price and split it like 8-9 times or something like that. It was worth 16 times what the initial, the offering was after the E. coli incident.
Right.
Siddig's brilliant.
Wow.
And that's the story of the Stanford Jack in the Box mystery. If you have a mystery that you want to be solved, send it in the form below. You can see from this video that I will do whatever it takes to solve it. But to cap this off, I would have never imagined that a journey about a hat would evolve into one that uncovers the complex brand identity of Jack in the Box and tell the story of how one man brought a company back to life and become one of the most recognizable in the world today. Thank you for watching up to here. I expect nobody will watch this video, but who knows. I want to thank Sean, Jack, and Rick for their time, and I want to thank you for watching. See you in the next one.